Hello students, let's suppose you want to eat chocolate brownie ice cream today. You go to the shop and ask the shopkeeper for the ice cream, where various milk products of different brands are kept in the shop. Do you see? The shop is totally disorganized and things are not arranged properly at all. Now you tell shopkeeper that you want specifically chocolate brownie ice cream only. But the shopkeeper gets tired of finding out where the ice cream is in all this mess. Tired of waiting, you move on to the next shop. You see, in this shop, the shopkeeper has very nicely organized each and every product as per the brands and also as per their prices and various other similarities and dissimilarities. When you ask this man for chocolate brownie ice cream, he immediately brings you that. In this case, we can say that if shopkeeper had sorted all of his goods into proper categories and had arranged them in their respective positions, then both he and the customer would have got things immediately and easily. So look students, how important it is to categorize and arrange whatever we have. It saves time and energy both. Thus, classification or categorization is important, whether of goods or chemicals or information. In fact, we can say it is not just important for shops and stores, it is also important in every field of life. So, classification means grouping or categorizing into certain groups based on similarities and dissimilarities. Now, in this chapter, we are going to study something similar of this kind. We are going to study periodic classification of the elements. So, what classification means we have seen, but what does periodic mean here? Periodic here means that after a specific interval of time, the properties of element will repeat. And you are already familiar with word element. An element refers to atoms of the same type. Let us understand. We know that in chemistry, everything can be classified as elements, compounds, and mixtures. Mixtures are formed when two or more compounds or elements are mixed. Our food items are mixture, or sand is a mixture. They contain various compounds in desired ratio or desired proportions. Like our food is a mixture of various compounds like salt, sugar, spices, water, carbohydrates, vitamins, etc. in the ratios we desire for. Then what are these compounds? When two or more atoms combine through a chemical reaction in a fixed ratio, a compound is formed. So if we change the ratio, the compound will also change. For example, the hydrogen to oxygen ratio in water is fixed. It is always 2:1. If we add one oxygen and change the ratio to 2:2, we get another compound, hydrogen peroxide. As a result, in compounds, the fixed ratio or fixed proportion is very important and must. Now, the elements are the purest form of any substances. They are made up of only one type of atom. These elements combine in a definite proportion to form compounds, and compounds are added in desired proportion to form mixtures. So, can we say that all substances, whether compounds or mixtures, are made up of elements? Yes, indeed. We have already studied that all things around us is made up of matter, and matter is made up of elements. So, in order to study any substance or any matter, we have to begin our study from the elements. Well, this seems easy only if we had to study very few elements. But do you know how many elements have been discovered to date? At present, 118 elements are known to us. and out of these 180, 94 are naturally occurring. So it isn't a quite lesser number to study them individually. Am I right? Yes. And top of that, all these have different properties. So studying every element individually and their properties seems difficult to me. So then how do we study the properties of these elements? Yes, one easy way is to categorize them in small groups
and then study and compare all of them with one representative element for the whole group.
Yes, the arrangement of the elements into categories is the first step of organizing them or classifying them. In other words, we have to categorize or arrange them based on their similarities and dissimilarities of the properties. Scientists have made several attempts to classify elements according to their properties and obtain an orderly arrangement from this chaos. And this is what we will study in this chapter. So you have understood very well the importance of classification. Now here, periodic term is used for anything that repeats after a
certain interval,
such as Monday that repeats every 7 days, or like the pendulum of clock that returns to the same place after a fixed interval. The swing also repeats its motion. So here, do we mean that elements will repeat here? No, elements aren't repeating here, but their properties will be repeated after a certain interval.
Also, properties show specific trend as we go right to left or top to bottom in rows and column of this tabular arrangement.
That is, the classification is done in such a way that elements with uniform properties are repeated after a certain interval, and thus is called periodic classification of elements. The first attempt to classify was made in 1789 when Anton Lavoisier grouped elements into
metals and non-metals based on their physical properties.
Then in 1817, a scientist named Dobriner attempted to classify elements by creating a triad of elements. In 1866, a scientist, Newland, tried to classify the elements by the law of octaves. Following the failure of all these attempts, scientist Mendeleev classified then known 64 elements into a tabular form where he placed them in the increasing order of their atomic masses. This classification of Mendeleev received a good response, but there also, with discoveries of new elements, limitations popped up. Then in 1913, Henry Mussel changed Mendeleev's classification of elements and formed the most widely accepted classification, which is today known as modern periodic table. He changed the arrangement of Mendeleev's elements from atomic weight to the atomic number. And this classification is till date most widely accepted way of classifying elements. We will study all these in detail in our coming videos.